So Chief, just to start, you put out this plan. How do you plan to meet all these strategies when you're down more than 500 officers?
I think that's the important reason that we need to implement this plan, because we need to be focused, we need to be efficient with all of our resources that we do have. And the only way you do that is with a plan. So our folks are dedicated. We work hard every day. We have a lot of folks working a lot of overtime to be able to make sure that we meet the public safety needs of Phoenix.
How are you doing more with less?
It's about being focused, and it's also about focusing our commanders to put together action plans that mean something. We talk about performance management and the importance of all being on the same sheet of music. That's what this does. This puts us in that conversation and being able to have those conversations and figure out what's working, what's not working, make adjustments where we need to, and then when we have successes, if we can replicate those across the city, we certainly will.
And you detail working with community groups. Who are these groups?
It's the groups that we've worked with across the city, whether it's business associations, other social service agencies. We work with hundreds of groups and meet with hundreds of groups on a regular basis, and we're going to continue to get that feedback and make sure that the action plans put together in the precincts have the voices of those folks. And
are these groups substituting or supplementing the shortage of officers?
I mean, we can't do the work without community. We could have double the amount of officers that we have out here, and we wouldn't be able to do it. We have also increased what we have here. While we talk about this reduction of officers, what we also see is an increase in hiring. Where this time last year we were a shrinking department. This time this year, we're actually a growing department. We have over 100 recruits that are in the academy right now, and 30 officers that are in training out there getting ready to hit the street. So that's good news for the people of Phoenix, and it's changed where we were this time last year.
Well, when you look at the numbers, we reported last July that you were down more than 500 officers, and that is still the case now. So how can you say that you've moved the needle?
Because we've stopped the decrease. What we were looking at before, that delta was growing and growing and growing. We've stopped that and started to turn the car around, as you like to say, and started to go in the right direction. So that's promising news.
You talk about reducing violent crime. We see from the plan that homicides are up. We actually just reported that 44% of the homicides committed last year in 2022 of the 223, only 127 are solved. Is that acceptable to you?
And I'd have to dig into all that data. Certainly I want to solve every single homicide that's out there. Year to date, what I would tell you is we're down in homicides. So we are continuing to work very hard to make sure that we hold folks accountable wherever we can. We have the most incredible detectives in America that work very, very hard to clear crime, especially violent crimes.
And when looking into those unsolved homicides, we noticed that the city manager's website had a statistic saying that 80% of homicides in 2022, that was the clearance rate, 80%, which we found to be, derived from different data and different numbers than you guys, which appeared to be in some way misleading. How does that sit with you?
Well, what I would tell you is when you talk about clearance rates, we have to talk about the FBI standards when it comes to clearance rates. It's not arrest rates. We talk about arrest rates, but a homicide can be cleared by a number of different areas, and it's by the standards that are set up by the FBI, and those are the standards that we report when we report clearance rates, and we'll continue to do that and stand by those numbers that we put out on an annual basis.
Well, the clearance rate we got from the police department was different than what was on the city manager's website. So how do you ensure transparency in that process and getting those numbers and what's actually the reality?
Well, since I don't have both those in front of me right now, I'll be happy to follow up with you after the interview, after we take a look at those.
Okay. What is considered a hot spot when it comes to these high crime areas?
I think we described in the plan as the most active areas. It's areas where we see high levels of violence, but high levels of disorder as well, and complaints from the community. So some of these places have had challenges for years and years. Some of them, it's something that we use data to be able to drive what those areas are. And it's the crime data that we have to be able to drive where we see those most active areas.
And what can neighbors who live in these most active areas expect to see differently or change?
What they can expect to see is plans, and we're expecting our commanders to engage with the community, to make sure that they develop a plan that meets their needs. But then also we focus and we look for really solutions that are outside just police. Bring in other city agencies. Look for opportunities that we can change the environment. Those are the types of things, how we sustain crime reduction and how we change these areas that face different challenges.
How are prohibited possessors getting guns?
Because there's lots of guns out there. If you're a convicted felon, it's not hard, obviously, to get a gun, because we see folks that shouldn't have them all the time. They're derived a number of different ways, whether it be through straw purchasers, people who go out and purchase guns and provide them to individuals, through theft, and then through other means that the individuals have that are out there on the street. Unfortunately, it's way too easy for criminals to get their hands on guns.
What does the data tell you?
Well, what my data tells me about prohibited possessors is when we find people that are involved in homicides, and when we find people that are involved in situations where we have officer-involved shootings, an incredible amount of them have misconduct and weapon charges in their past. Those are opportunities for us to make sure we hold people accountable. If we put those cases together and provide them to the county attorney, she's promised to be able to prosecute those to the fullest. And those folks don't have the opportunity to go out and victimize the community.
And if I may, this is amid the DOJ investigation. Is this in any way a response to that?
Crime fighting and reform are not mutually exclusive. I'll say that over and over and over again. Matter of fact, they work together. If we're going to build trust, we have to be an effective organization to be able to fight crime, build trust, and make change in this community.
It was detailed that performing high-quality initial investigation is part of this action plan. Shouldn't this already be happening?
One of the things that we instituted was a non-fatal shoot team, which we have 10 detectives that are now investigating non-fatal shootings, bullet-piercing events, like a homicide. They go out to every one of those scenes. We weren't doing that before. Those investigations were done at the precinct level, and it would just depend on who was there at that scene. So being able to bring that expertise, make sure that we do that. And we need to focus on, with the prohibited possessor, with those investigations, that we get folks the training they need, so we make sure that those cases can be brought and we can hold those folks accountable.